So I think arguably there's been some great news lately when it comes to Stellar from a fundamental perspective, and let me explain what that is in today's video, even though nothing I say is financial advice. So did you know that when it comes to Stellar's total value locked, or should I say TVL, it recently reached $204 million. What does that even mean? It showcases actually an all-time high, so to speak, right? Because remember, its total value locked was around 46 million back in May of 2025. However, as of April 24th, the total value locked was 204 million. I mean, wow. Now, some people like to say, well, who cares about this? Well, I think this really matters a lot. Keep in mind, it's at a time like right now. Is the market doing the best? No. XLM actually is around 16 cents. I mean, is it at all-time high levels? No. But seeing something like this, I think it may showcase the increased adoption when it comes to Stellar to a certain extent. And actually, a lot of this, arguably, right, if we want to take a look at it just from a kind of arguable fundamental perspective, I think it may have to do with something called Soroban. Now, we have to think about this, right? If we take a look at the features of what Soroban did, I guess in regard to kind of the aspect of it, I think it brought like a whole host of sort of these DeFi capabilities, which of course I think, you know what, naturally, if that was, doing pretty good in regard to Soroban, I don't know why that wouldn't kind of sort of elevate the total value locked when it comes to Stellar. Keep in mind, that is, right, again, Soroban, it's Stellar's smart contract platform. Now, people like to say, well, who cares about this nonsense? It was launched back in 2024. Who cares about this? But I feel like at least some people do care about it because they're not, why would we see, the total value locked of Stellar being like that, basically? So I think, again, this kind of showcases sort of the, I guess, progression when it comes to Stellar because a lot of people like to say that, oh, XLM, it's around 16 cents, it's done for, it's cooked and all this. But we have to consider sometimes the fundamentals may not necessarily be a pure reflection of what is going on when it comes to the charts because the charts may not be doing the best, but it doesn't mean that the fundamentals are bad in some cases. Not in every single case, but I'm just saying in some cases because XLM being down as of right now, I don't think it's because it just became bad all of a sudden when it comes to Stellar. I don't think that's the case. I think if anything, it's because of the market sentiment not doing the best. But that's not controlled by Stellar, right? Stellar cannot control the market. That's the thing. The market controls kind of what goes on, sometimes generally speaking, when it comes to these projects in regard to the charts. So Stellar can't just demand an altcoin season to happen. I don't think it works that way, right? So when it comes to XLM being down, sure, it's not doing the best, but we have to take a look at it, sometimes fundamentally speaking. And I like to focus on projects that have good fundamentals because in some cases, that kind of indicates to me longevity, right? I think it sometimes indicates that, you know what, it's a project that could still kind of make it through market downturns. Some other projects out there, keep in mind, they're closing up shop, they're done for, in a sense where we see some teams out there announcing that they're stopping operations. Now, of course, it's due to the prolonged market downturn, which as a result, some teams out there didn't plan properly, didn't do the right moves to kind of prepare for something like that. They thought things were just going to be happy all the time. The market's going to be doing good. Then suddenly the market was like, nope, you know what? We're going to go down. And then suddenly what happened? These projects didn't prepare. You know what? No choice but to close up shop in some cases, right? Sometimes what's coming in doesn't justify anymore what's coming out. So I see some projects out there closing up shop, but I just hypothetically don't really see that in this case. And I think sometimes it showcases proper management. I think it also sometimes showcases actual sort of preparation and proper planning too. Now, a market downturn can't always be sort of understood before it happened, right? But I'm just saying some projects out there, they prepare for either situation. Either the market's doing good or not doing good. Sometimes they prepare for that. So I sometimes do like that. And people like to tell me, who cares about Stellar's total value locked? That's so boring and all this. Who cares about projects that are focused on utility? Well, here's my rebuttal. The thing is this, boring sometimes, for me at least, I think sometimes to me, at least in the world of cars, it gives me like peace of mind. Again, this is when it comes to the world of cars. Let me just give an analogy when it comes to this. I remember, always thinking like back then, right? Oh, wow, Toyotas, they're so boring. I always thought that like back then. And actually, one moment that kind of made me change my mind was I remember like years ago, I had a friend whose dad bought a Lamborghini Murcielago, and the thing is, it was used, of course, but the thing is, I remember like we thought it was so amazing and all this, right? But then he was like, "Oh, we got to change the clutch." And I remember at that time I was like, "What? I never, even thought about that when it comes to a Toyota, right?" Now, I'm pretty sure, eventually we might have to change the clutch, but I'm just saying it wasn't even something I thought about at that time. And I remember he was like, "Oh yeah, after a certain amount of miles or whatever, he had to keep changing the clutch." And I was like, "What? Seriously?" Like when it comes to the car, and then I realized, "Oh wow, like okay, I get it. It's cool, it's flashy, but in terms of reliability, I don't know." Right? And I remember he had like the one that you could open the top. It wasn't like a electronic one. You have to legit like open it. It was like a fabric roof that you could open like that. But I remember opening it was a hassle, putting it back was a hassle. I mean, I was like, what the? I was like, this is not fun. I thought that to myself, right? So then I realized, okay, what's fun sometimes may not really feel like that relaxing. That's just the way I take a look at it. Now, granted, I'm pretty sure some of the newer Lamborghinis nowadays, they probably, are a little bit more reliable. I'm assuming, I don't know, right? But at the same time, that lesson kind of taught me, okay, Toyota is boring, but at least it won't make me kind of stressed. That's the way I thought about it, right? So ever since then, I always thought that, you know what, Toyotas, they may not be the most exciting, but I like it, right? I like the chill factor, I like the reliability. But even besides that, when it comes to the space, sure, there's sometimes these memes or whatever like that. In some cases, some do hold up pretty okay, but in some cases, they get absolutely cooked. So I realized, okay, those are fun, but also I want to believe in some utility-driven projects too. That's the thing. I thought to myself, you know what, they're fun, they're exciting, cool, but sometimes what's considered boring, the one that actually has utility, sometimes they are the ones that kind of make it through a market downturn in some cases. So that was kind of the analogy that I have. So yeah, sure, I mean, XLM, it's around 16 cents, but if anything, what that only means is that if it goes back to December of 2024 levels, we're over 3 times lower than that. And you know what? It goes back to around 54 cents, basically. You already know where I'm going. I'm going to Sizzler, right? To celebrate, maybe. But we'll wait and see. And the thing is, when it comes to around 16 cents, we have to consider. When it comes to XLM back then, when it was hovering around 10 cents or whatever, actually around, like, I guess 13 cents and whatnot, when it did that and then suddenly it had a rally to around 54 cents, everyone was saying, oh wow, why was it ignored at around 10 or 13 cents? But basically, even as of right now, we're nearing those levels again, right? So what? It's considered a bad thing right now, but back then a lot of people were saying, oh wow, why was it ignored at that point? So if anything, I feel like, as if personally for me, this is kind of like a time machine, hypothetically, and then I can go back in time to see like XLM back at 2023 levels, I guess, even though we're kind of a little bit higher than 10 cents, of course, as of right now, but I'm just saying, it kind of feels like that to me. It feels like 2023, like in terms of a deja vu type of feeling, but then in 2026. I mean, that's just the way you take a look at it. But you know what? I'm not telling anyone to do anything. This is purely my perspective. But when it comes to Stellar, I just thought it was pretty cool seeing, again, their TVL do that. I thought it was really impressive, actually, in the grand scheme of things. I want to say thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a very nice day. It's been Lee the Captain. I'm out. Peace. Bye.